And he's crossing the 50-yard line. He has no one to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Otterbein.
Good snap, good hold. The kick is up from Gaither, and it is good. Takes the give to Rudolph. Sizemore throwing off his back foot. And what a catch by Bryson Ray! Oh my goodness!
Live from the studios at 33 College View, it's time for the Tim Doup Coaches Show on 97.5 WOBN. Now, here's your host, David Kinder.
Hello and welcome into the studios of 33 College View here on 97.5 WOBN for a Week 8 edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show. We want to thank everyone for tuning in today, whether it's on the air, on WOBN.net, or on WOBN's YouTube page. Thank you for tuning in. Well, Otterbein wins Saturday 20-9 over the Baldwin Wallace Yellow Jackets to advance 5-2 on the season, 5-1 in league play, and they remain alive in the OAC championship race. I'm your host, David Kinder. Joining me in this studio is head football coach Tim Doup and senior wide receiver from North Union High School who had 4 receptions for 49 yards in the victory, Travis Laird. Travis, it was an exciting game all the way, but it was really a game of two halves again. You guys go into the locker room down 9-0, come out in the second half, score 20 unanswered points. So I have to ask you, what was the halftime speech that Coach Doup gave to you guys?
He really just challenged us to pick it up, and that was probably the worst half of football we've played all season. So he really just challenged us, and we came out and were able to run the ball and gain a little more yardage on offense and put some points on the board.
Coach, there's always two sides to every story, so I have to ask you, what was the speech that you gave to the players at halftime?
Which one? There was the
one that's best for radio.
The first one with the team on the field was not a very positive one. And like Travis said, I basically told them it's the worst half of football I've seen maybe since I've been here. We just could do nothing right. Nobody was making plays. We couldn't block. We couldn't protect. We couldn't catch. We couldn't run. We couldn't do anything offensively. And we put our defense in some bad spots. But, I think once we got inside the locker room, it was more just of a challenge of, more positive. Hey, let's step up. Who's going to make the play? We're fine. We're only 9 down. We just need to get back to what we do fundamentally.
Travis, Coach just talked about it, the offensive struggles in the first half. Going into the locker room, just 97 yards of total offense, and you had only had it in Yellow Jacket territory just once. What was it that BW was doing defensively so well that was giving you guys some problems?
I think they were just shutting down our run game. We've been pretty successful all year running the ball, and they came out strong and physical. And when a team shuts down the run game like that, it's hard to open up the pass game as well, so we just struggled all half.
Going into the locker room and coming out, what halftime adjustments did the offense make?
I think we were just able to get a little more movement up front and just open up some holes for our running backs.
I didn't play a perfect game, but for the third straight week, the offensive line did not allow a sack on Brick Davis. How has their play recently helped you and the other wide receivers to help get open and catch the balls?
They've been great this year, giving Brick a lot of time, and even when Brick doesn't have as much time, he's been pretty good at not taking sacks and kind of scrambling around and giving us wide receivers some time to make some plays.
Looking at the first drive of the second half, backed up on the BW 28-yard line, you guys face a 3rd down and long, and you only converted 1 third down in the first half, but Davis is able to find you across the middle for a 15-yard gain and a first down, and it ends up leading to a field goal, the first points you get in the game. It might show up in the box score as just a 15-yard reception, but how important was that conversion to set the tone in the second half to keep that drive going and not have to punt it away?
It was huge. We needed something positive to happen. Our team was kind of down just because of the way we were playing the first half. So just being able to move the ball and pick up the first down was a huge turnaround for us.
Your senior quarterback, Brick Davis, a little shaky to start out, but he ended up going 21 of 37, 243 yards, and a passing touchdown, and more importantly, no turnovers. What was your grade of the quarterback's performance?
I would have to give him an A. I mean, he came out and he's a great quarterback. He knows the game really well, and he loves the game, and he's a great leader as well. So he really gets all of us motivated and fired up.
Coach, switching our attention to the defensive side of the ball, what a performance they had. They pitched a second-half shutout, and the 9 points allowed in the first half, they were really put in difficult situations. The touchdown came after a 53-yard punt return, and they start the drive at the Otterbein 7-yard line, and the field goal came after a botched snap on a punt, and they start at the Cardinal 13-yard line, and they hold them to just 3 points on that drive. Where did the defensive performance rank for you?
I'll tell you, I thought it was one of our better defensive performances that I've had here, since I've been a head coach. I mean, I told him afterwards, our defense played lights out. Like I said, they were put in some bad spots after the punt return, and then, we snapped the ball over the punter's head, and we're only down 9-0 after all that. I thought our defense played as well as they possibly could. I think in the second half especially, they came out and purely just dominated BW. Take away that last drive of BW is what they got all those yards passing. I mean, we were just in prevent defense and, sitting back. So, but I thought we did a great job stopping the run. I thought we did a great job stopping the pass. Their quarterback's shifty. We missed him a couple times, but, overall I thought our defense played lights out.
Twice in the second half, the Yellow Jackets get it into the red zone, and Otterbein forces a fumble and ended up recovering. The second one, the Jackets quarterback, Tyler Meglin, completed a pass to his tight end, catches it at the 10-yard line. He took it to the 2, and the ball popped out, fell in the end zone. Josh Bishrell recovered the ball. How important was that turnover? What looked like it could have been a BW touchdown turned into your ball with a touchback at the 20-yard line.
Well, I'll tell you right now, that was a turning point. We could have been down 21-0. That's the key. They fumbled in the red zone and then fumble again on the 2-yard line going in. We very easily could have been down 20-0 at half, and that right there, I think those were huge momentum things, to get us to, revamp what we were doing and take a deep breath and say, okay, here we go, because it could have been a lot worse.
We talked about in last week's show how important it was to limit those big plays. They had 2 plays of 80 yards or more last Saturday against Wilmington. This Saturday, their longest play was 36 yards, and it was that pass that they fumbled on right at the goal line. How important was it to limit those big plays?
Well, I think in any game you've got to limit the big plays. And they were a big play offense. I think, like I said, our defense did a great job limiting the big plays, and they caught us. He slipped out and got behind our corner and our safety, and we sort of lost him for a second, but they made it up by stripping him of the ball. But like I said, big plays will kill you in games, and we didn't give up any big plays.
A lot of defensive players had standout games on that side of the ball. Linebacker Preston Pearson ended up with 12 tackles and a sack. Austin Jones all over the field, and Jordan Keaton, the normal punter filling in at cornerback, had 6 tackles and also forced a fumble. Did anyone stand out on the defensive side of the ball to you?
Well, I think they played really well as a unit. Preston and Austin are getting all those tackles, and what that tells me is our D-line's doing their job, keeping them off those two. They should lead us in tackles. But I thought overall just the physicality, I thought our defense brought it. It took a little bit for our offense to do it, but I think right out of the chute, the defense played as a whole just a great game. And like you said, Keaton came in and did a great job. I mean, coming in, filling in for Shell, did a great job, and he also did an outstanding job punting. So, he played an all-around great game.
The defense holds the Yellow Jackets to just 294 yards of total offense, well below their season average of 354, and the 9 points allowed the second fewest BW has scored all year. Coach, moving towards the special teams, you hinted at it a little bit. Looking at that BW drive, the one following their touchdown, they have a 4th down and 2 at midfield, and they snap it to their up back, and the return team wasn't fooled at all. They stopped them for a turnover on downs. Otterbein takes over at midfield. If memory serves me right, the last time we saw a fake punt run on us was in the Marietta game, and the Pioneers really fooled the Otterbein return unit and got a big gain. Was it something you were expecting that they might run in this game, and is it something you've practiced a lot since that Marietta game?
They had not showed it. They had not shown it at all. But with that being said, several years ago they ran that against us. So we went clear back and showed our guys film of what they might do, and we prepared for it, even though they hadn't shown it all year. I thought we would be the team that they might do it to, and our guys did a great job. We were in punt safe, thought it might happen, and sure enough, they snapped it to him, and we did a great job by stopping him and getting the football back.
You already mentioned your punter, Jordan Keaton. He averaged 40 yards on his 8 kicks, and 2 of his kicks were down at the 1-foot line. Along with that, Alana Gaither made 2 field goals at 28 and 30 yards to remain perfect on the year on field goals. However, we did see one of the snaps go over Keaton's head, and there was a punt return back to the 7-yard line, 53 yards. We know you have a point system for grading the special teams unit, so what was the grade?
I think we got 4 out of 10 of our goals that we accomplished. And that was just because of hidden yardage. And when you snap a ball over a punter's head and you give up a big punt return, that puts all your numbers right there. 4 or 5 goals go out the door. So, but you take those 2 things away. I thought we played really well, special teams wise. But even though we doesn't look like it on the board, but I thought we played pretty well. But those 2 things just hurt our goal board.
Otterbein wins 20-9, their 3rd straight win of the season, and Coach Doup remains undefeated against the men from Berea. We'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll have our scouting report on Saturday's opponent, the Mount Union Purple Raiders. You're listening to the Tim Doup Coaches Show on 97.5 with wide receiver Travis Laird, head coach Tim Doup, and myself, David Kinder. We'll be right back after this.
Give blood. Ever wonder why they do it?
It's the one thing that we can do that we can always afford to do, and hey, you get a snack afterwards. So
snacks are great. I had never knew my blood type, and I found out in doing this that I'm O negative, so there's that added pressure knowing that everyone can use my blood at any time, and so I feel like it's my responsibility.
It's a little extra bragging power too, knowing that you're a universal giver.
Yeah, I'm pretty special.
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org to make an appointment today.
Hi, I'm Junior Center Grant Knoppenberger. You're listening to the Tim Doup Coaches Show here on 97.5 WOBN. Miss anything from today's episode, you can listen to every show on WOBN's YouTube page.
Hey Cardinal fans, Otterbein Athletics on the Radio is brought to you in part by Westerville Automotive. Serving the Westerville area for 20 years, they have 2 locations on Westerville Road and in the Uptown area, just seconds away from Otterbein on Main Street. They're on the web at westervilleautomotive.com. You can follow them on Facebook at Westerville Automotive Uptown or call them at 614-890-6700.
I used to be one of those irresponsible guys, always goofing off and acting like a real jerk. Girls wouldn't give me the time of day. Hey, Julie, do you have the time?
Shut up.
Then, 30 days before my 18th birthday, I went down to my local post office and registered with Selective Service overnight. I became aware of the man I had suddenly become, eligible for federal student loans, government jobs, and job training, responsible and mature. Hi, Julie. Dinner tonight?
I'd love to, Brad.
So register with Selective Service. It's what a man's gotta do.
These are the sounds of someone taking their eyes off the road. Texting while driving is more than distracting. It's dangerous. Do yourself a favor. Do us all a favor. When you're on the road, stay off the phone. A message from CTIA, America's Wireless Companies, and the National Safety Council.
Edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show here on 97.5. Well, this week the Otterbein Cardinals will try to do something they have not done since 1977, 36 games ago, and that is beat the Mount Union Purple Raiders, winners of 11 Division III national titles since 1993. And the 2014 edition of Mount Union comes into this game undefeated, 7-0, and the number 3 ranked team in all of D3 college football. They're coming off a big 74-7 win over Wilmington last week. Coach, we all know obviously about the power powerhouse up in Alliance. When you started playing in the late 80s is when they started with their dynasty, and it's carried through your time as the offensive coordinator and the head coach. In general, what is it that has made them so unstoppable for the past 2 decades? Is it the university support, the coaching staff, the players? If you had to pin one thing, what would you say it is?
I would say the players. I mean, they've got guys. They've just got guys that they're just a little bit better than a lot of other teams. They're bigger, faster, stronger. And when Coach Karras, he did a great job building it, recruiting those guys. And once you get to that level, you start talking national championships and stuff. Recruiting becomes easier. Everything becomes easier. And but I think all their athletics are very good there, just because of the support they get too.
Obviously, a tough game to prepare for. So, in the week leading up into this game, when you prepare for it, do you treat it like any other game, or do you put a little special effort into it?
No, you treat it just like any other game. You're going to play, we're going to play, and it is what it is. But I don't go crazy. I try to keep even keel as much as I can with the guys. And you just got to play smart and do what we do best. The biggest thing is you watch film and people go completely away from what they've done all year because they think, oh my God, we're going to switch everything. That's not the approach you need to take. The approach is, what got us here? Let's get better at those things, and that's what we'll do on Saturday.
Last year, Otterbein lost 48-0 to Mount Union, and Travis, you ended up being the leading receiver in that game. Just one reception for 13 yards. Obviously, their defense does a lot well. They give up just 181 yards of total offense and just 6 points per game. What do you remember about playing Mount Union in years past and from watching film that defensively they do extremely well?
Like Coach Doup said, they just got guys out there that are just bigger, faster, stronger, and they're just flying around making plays all day long.
Coach Doup says he doesn't treat this game any special than the other ones. When you go into this game, do you treat it any differently than the other 9 games you play?
No, nothing changes for us, and especially this late in the season, it's important for us just to perfect the things that we do. Can't really change anything just because we're playing Mount.
You have a whole week of practice leading up to this game. What do you see as the biggest area of concern for the wide receivers in particular to work on leading up to this game?
I probably just to win on the one-on-one matchups. They got fast DBs, so just to win those one-on-one matchups will be huge for us to make gains on offense.
Their defensive backs play very physical. They have 10 interceptions this year, second most in the league. And Trey Jones, who is first-team all-conference, is one of their top corners in the league. He could very well be playing on the same side as the field that you are. Is there anything different you do going into a game knowing that you're going to be playing such a talented defensive backfield and especially one talented DB?
No, I think it's just really important for us to come out and establish a run game. With a run game, it'll open up the pass game. And that's what we'll plan on doing.
Coach, looking at the defense, you will face arguably the best quarterback you've seen all year in senior Kevin Burke. He's completing 68% of his passes this year, close to 2,000 yards already, 23 touchdowns, just 1 interception. He's a mobile guy, also has rushed for 6 scores as well. Would you say he's the most talented player you guys have faced this year?
Oh, there's no doubt. He won the Gagliardi last year as the top Division III player in the country. He's been He's been there. He understands the system. He pretty much runs the show on offense. He gets a lot of time to throw. Their O-line does a great job protecting him. He's got great receivers, and they can run the football. So, his job is obviously – now he'll get in a little bit of trouble, but, man, he does a great job getting out because he can run. I don't think he's running as much as he did last year and the years past, but you got to contain him and get a little pressure on him, but you can't let him get out.
You mentioned getting pressure. Otterbein leads the OAC in sacks, and it just so happens that the 2 players with the most sacks individually in the OAC are 2 Otterbein linebackers. Will Brett, Zach Hamilton, both have 5, lead the conference. So how important is it going to be to get pressure on Burke and not only get pressure, but make sure you bring him to the ground?
That's the key. You got to try to figure out ways to get pressure on him. But like I said, you can't let him flush out. You got to keep him contained in there and hope somebody else can come off. Because he is shifty in there and he'll make people miss and get out of there and then make a big throw. So the biggest thing is, as mobile as he is, you got to try to keep him in that pocket and try to get pressure on him.
They really like to rotate the running backs. They have 4 guys that average at least 50 yards a game, and all of them have 4 rushing touchdowns or more. What kind of challenges does that bring for a defense, knowing that they carry the ball with fresh legs almost every drive?
Well, I mean, they're rotating backs like crazy, but they all do something a little bit different. And when you have that kind of fresh legs, guys don't get worn out. We try to do that a little bit ourselves, but those fresh legs, and they're some of them are a little bit shiftier, some of them are a little bit more downhill. So yeah, it is a disadvantage when you've got tailbacks that are running backs that are all about even, but they all bring something a little bit different, and you keep rotating them for fresh legs. It's it's a concern, and because defenses get tired and they're fresh as can be. So we got to take a look at that.
We saw a little bit of the Wildcat last week, and I know Coach Vince Karras is an avid listener to this radio program, so we don't want to give away too much of your secrets. Is there any chance that we could see anything special formation-wise or plays in Saturday's football game?
I don't think so, and we are what we are. We're not going to try to reinvent the wheel. We're just going to try to get better at the things we do and not try to do anything crazy, and just play football.
In last year's 48-0 loss to Mount Union, the Raiders scored a 67-yard touchdown on just the second play of the game. How important will it be to limit those big plays early so to keep some of that momentum on Otterbine's sideline?
Well, I think it's huge. I mean, they have the capability to score at any time. And the biggest thing is you can't what we call get OAC ambushed, which means getting punts blocked for touchdowns and scoring in one play. I think that's the biggest thing is you got to try to keep it close and see what the outcome is.
Travis, the offense really seemed to struggle last year against Mount Union. How important will it be to move that ball early and try to get points up on the board quick before Mount Union does?
Oh, it'll be huge for us to sustain some drives, just keep our defense off the field, keep them fresh, and just put as many points on the board as we can.
We've talked about in other shows how balanced Otterbein has been this year, both passing and rushing the ball. If you look at the numbers, they're almost identical. How important will it be to run a balanced attack against the Purple Raiders to keep them off balance so they don't know whether the run is coming or the pass?
It'll be huge, especially just to sustain that run game. The run game will open up the pass, and if we can't run the ball, we're not going to be able to pass the ball. So that'll be huge for us.
Lastly, Coach, a few players were banged up in that game. I noticed at one point Grant Knoppenberger wasn't in the game, and we had a backup center in the game. He went down with an injury. What happened to Grant, and could we expect to see him on Saturday?
Yeah, Grant, he tweaked his ankle. He was back there getting retaped, and he's getting it rehab. He just tweaked it. I just saw him actually before we came over here, and he said he'll be ready to go.
The defensive backfield really banged up as well. We mentioned Jordan Boniface out with an injury. Jordan Shell also out with an injury. Any chance we could see either of those guys back in the starting lineup?
I think there's a good chance we'll see Jordan Shell. He's working I think through a hip flex. It was just sore. And so we decided not to go with him. I think he could have played. But, we decided to rest him for another week. But I think I'm sure he'll be ready to go.
Other than that, much of the starting lineup expected to remain the same?
Yeah. I mean, we're relatively healthy, but except for that.
Well, Otterbein will take to the field this Saturday, kickoff at 1:30. You can listen to that game if you can't make it to Memorial Stadium right here on 97.5 WOBN. Live coverage will start at 1 o'clock. Myself, Jacob Barker, will have all the action from the radio booth with the game with the Mount Union Purple Raiders as Otterbein will try to pull off the upset. We're going to take our second break, though. When we come back, we'll get Coach and Travis's opinion on what would happen if they decided to play football across the pond like they did this past Sunday with the Detroit Lions. You're listening to the Tim Doup Coaches Show here on 97.5 WOBN. We'll be right back after this.
Football is a sport that unites fans, players, and coaches alike in a spirit of competition and camaraderie. Football season has come to our area, and while you're watching a game with friends or sharing in the excitement with family, be sure to celebrate responsibly. Never pick up the keys and drive if you've had too much to drink. And if you're 21, drinking alcohol is against the law. Remember, alcohol is different. Let's all work together to keep our roads and community safe and have a winning season.
Be sure to log on to WOBN.net for a complete broadcast schedule of music, talk shows, and sports. That's WOBN.net.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a
I
cold
want to
day.
be a football
I want to be a
stadium.
bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Would your business survive a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Can't make it to one of the football games this year? Well, WOBN has you covered with live broadcast of all 10 football games this year, home and away. Join us 30 minutes before kickoff for pregame and stay with us long after the final whistle for analysis and updates on what else happened in college football. It's all right here on 97.5 WOBN and streaming live anywhere in the world on WOBN.net. Welcome back to the Week 8 edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show here on 97.5 WOBN. I'm David Kinder. Joining me in the studio, senior wide receiver Travis Laird and head football coach Tim Doup. And it's time now for our final segment of the show where we get coach and the player's opinion on something other than honor-bind football. This Sunday, guys, the Detroit Lions played the Atlanta Falcons, and the Lions eked out a win on a last-second field goal. But the bigger story was this was the second of 3 NFL games to be played in London, England this year. The Cowboys and Jaguars will play there in 2 weeks as well. There have been 11 games across the pond since they started the series in 2007. Each game has drawn at least 75,000 Brits to Wembley Stadium. However, the NFL is looking to increase the number of games in London, and Roger Goodell has been quoted as saying the NFL is actively looking to put a 33rd team in London. There could be a lot of problems with that, including logistics and from a profit standpoint if it would be popular in London. So, Coach, we'll start with you first. If we ask you, is there a demand for American football, and could an NFL succeed there if you take out the logistics of it financially? Could a pro-American football team succeed?
Well, I think so. I think you're talking, I think you said it was, 80-some thousand yesterday?
Yeah,
but
86,000.
Yeah, and they're averaging 70-some thousand. I mean, that's more than what the NFL stadiums hold here.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great. I think, as long as the money's there, but, without saying that, which I think it would be, because I think you'd sell a lot of tickets and create a lot of, a lot of feedback from getting NFL guys even to go to Europe and live. I think that would be, or in London, that would be an interesting thing too.
How do you think American football would do trying to compete with soccer over there? Obviously, their number one sport.
I think it'd be okay. I still think there's a big interest in football over there.
Okay, taking a look at the logistics of it, if the Seattle Seahawks were to play this mythical team in London, it would take 10 hours, a nonstop flight to fly from Seattle to London. Logistically, could it work? Obviously, our world has gotten a lot smaller in the past few years, but is it small enough to have a team in another continent play 8 road games in the U.S. every year?
Well, I think, you're going from Seattle to there. I think, obviously, you would have to fly to the East Coast, like we talked about, and, practice. To maybe spend the night and then finish the flight. I don't think you want your team on a flight for 10 hours. I mean, we went to Husson a couple years ago. It was a 19-hour bus trip. So that wasn't a lot of fun. But, I think so. But, but the Europe team or the London team coming over, I know we talked about that too. They might have to come and stay a couple weeks, play, practice, play, maybe then go back. I don't think they can come back and forth several times.
Travis, it's looking more and more like there could be a 33rd team in the National Football League. Do you think there's the fan support probably in London that could support a team, and could it actually happen one day?
Yeah, I believe that football is it's a very popular sport worldwide. I know it's probably not their number one sport over there, but there's the definite interest is still there. So I think that we could see that in our future.
Los Angeles has also been talked about as another market for the NFL. Would you rather see them put a team domestically in L.A., which we've known has failed before 2 other times with the Rams and the Raiders who went there and then both ended up leaving before they put a team out in London?
I think I'd rather see it in London. I think that'd just be really interesting, and it would just bring a whole new aspect to the sport.
Logistically, do you think it could work? We talked about long flights, having to make stops on the East Coast, and what do you do about practice hours? Obviously, jet lag. There's a lot of problems with it. Logistically, do you think it could happen?
Yeah, I think that they could make it work. The money's there, and yeah, I think that they could do it over there too.
So what's the time frame we're thinking here, guys? Within the next 5 years, we'll see a team in London?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. That's, within the year or two, but I could see maybe in 5 years or something. It would take a while to get it ready.
You imagine if they put a team in London, they'd have to add another team to keep it even. That way you'd have the same amount of teams in each conference, and you wouldn't have an odd number of teams.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Where would that team go?
It could mess up with the playoffs and everything.
Yeah. I don't know where you put that team. Do you go to somewhere else in a different continent? I don't know.
Well, it certainly will be interesting, and, of course, we'll have to keep our eye on where that 33rd team will come because I'm pretty sure we all can admit there will be expansion coming to the NFL very soon. Well, that's going to do it for the Week 8 edition of the Tim Doup Coaches Show. We want to thank everyone for tuning in to today's episode, whether it was online or over the air. And remember, if you missed anything from today's episode, you can tune in to WOBN's YouTube page to catch the entire show and every show. For Coach Doup, for receiver Travis Laird, we thank you guys for taking time to join us in the studio. Saturday's football game from Memorial Stadium will kick off at 1:30. You can tune in right here on 97.5 for pregame coverage starting at 1 o'clock. I will have the call along with Jacob Barker. For Coach Doup, Travis Laird, and everyone tuning in, we want to thank you. This is David Kinder saying so long. We'll talk to you on Saturday.